Hello, Mike. It's such a pleasure to meet you. And thank you so much for giving your time to talk to Media for Growth. I think we're coming to the end of a very, very challenging year. But what actually struck me was that about a month ago, Adomni came out with this announcement of having reported a remarkably high 1,200% revenue growth in the last 1 year. What factors contributed to that significant revenue growth in what was otherwise an extremely challenging external environment?
Good question, and thanks for having me, Rajiv. Many factors, and I should point out to any cynics watching that's a pattern of growth. This isn't just based on last year being a bit of a disastrous year and it's huge growth on bad numbers. And I think it's reflective of a shift in the industry or a shift in thinking. Being out of home, just in its purest form, has always been something that humanity, at the risk of sounding deep, has been excited about. And then adding technology to the mediums of that make it easily accessible. So if you think Adomni have over half a million connected screens, 500,000 connected screens around the world that we can now interact with in a really relevant, timely way, in the same way that people can trade online, and people are aware that it's where the consumers are. So the ability to reach them so accurately means a lot. And actually, on top of that, as you alluded to, it's been a bizarre year with the pandemic and things. But I also think people who work in the media industry are viewing themselves more and more as consumers, and realizing that having been told by your government that you can't go out of home for 18 months, being released is a sense of freedom that you can only own out of home. And I think every CMO in the world right now is probably trying to figure out how they own the sense of freedom that will come with being released out of your home into my media space.
Absolutely. So it definitely, the growth is on the one side indicative of the new optimism that people have in these times. But more specifically, with regard to programmatic DOH, is an area in which Adomni is a leader. Is this the success of programmatic DOH contingent on the scale of operations? Where Adomni, as you just mentioned, has 500,000 plus connected screens globally. So to what extent would scale matter when it comes to the success of programmatic DOH?
Obviously you have to have some semblance of scale to reach an audience, and it will vary by city. It will certainly vary by country. The percentage of the population or the percentage of a target audience you need to reach to make it valuable. And that historically hasn't really changed. What's exciting about it is the ability to use digital out of home in this way, not just as a massive scale thing though. I do believe out of home is not necessarily a one-to-one medium in the main, but even if you are buying inventory or digital inventory in a more traditional way, using a platform like Adomni to at least use dynamic creative. So it adds value as soon as it comes to the market. The ability to have Priyanka Chopra 900 feet high on a billboard still has value, and no other medium can do that. But then if we can, the day her movie comes out, we can change the copy. If it starts raining, we can have her throw up an umbrella so that it is more engaging. So again, to repeat myself, the technology and the capabilities add value immediately. And then scale will come as every media owner in the world digitizes as fast as they can, and the ability to digitize is getting cheaper and cheaper as the technology and the hardware comes down. So yeah, I think there's value from day one, and then the scale will come.
Well, Mike, from your experience, what would actually be the inflection point where programmatic DOH would really come into its own?
I mean, I feel it's coming to its own on a global scale. And there's, like with any medium, certain markets are slower than others. But what we find is as soon as the main media owner starts to really invest in it, then everybody else follows along, and it has to happen. I mean, again, it will vary by country, but as soon as you can reach that percentage of the audience that you need, and we've got that information because it's the same information from static inventory. So it's reaching that individual scale in each point. I would argue that as soon as you get to a point where you can reach 30% of an audience at the kind of CPMs digital's bought at, it immediately adds value and should be thrown onto any media schedule, because we're still in that situation where, I mean, India is a prime example of a huge population in a country that traditionally has good weather. So people want to be out of home, and every other piece of technology, be it media, be it e-commerce or any of the tech giants, they position themselves as providers of efficiency, and efficiencies to humanity are defined as not being tied to your home and being out of home. So the importance continues, and hence it's scaling at the pace it is.
Right. How do you see media owning firms, really embracing programmatic DOH? Because unless their participation is assured, DOH will not really, programmatic DOH will not really happen
without the vendors, the media owners committing.
That's
you mean? Yeah. That's happening. We've literally just finished ingesting JCDecaux's inventory on a global scale. I think prior to Adomni spending many years on the agency side, a lot of people were trying to sell me these concepts, and it was a challenge at the beginning. The media owners and the vendors were kind of, why would I want to give up my inventory? And they started off by just giving up little bits of remnant inventory to test it. But now they're seeing, I mean, they're committing to it in a massive way. They're investing it in a massive way, the big media owners, because they're seeing incremental revenue. The biggest campaigns that Adomni have been put through, the multi-million-dollar campaigns that have come in, have traditionally been from brands' in-house digital departments that have never spent a dime on out-of-home before. So that changes the game immediately for a media owner. As soon as they know we're not just trying to repurpose brands that are already spending money in out-of-home and just switch it across to a programmatic buy. And that's very much part of our rhetoric. Again, I gave the analogy about putting a famous actress on a huge billboard. That's still a unique thing to out-of-home, that physicality and that ability to showcase beautiful creative. And I don't want that to go away. But again, now if we can target that actress's fan base the day the movie goes live in a real-time, poignant way, then that's where we just dominate over any other media. These evolutions are what we can do as well, not what we can do instead of.
Fantastic. Mike, I'll just stick with this theme of media owning firms or vendors, and would like to know from you, are they, what kind of media assets are they open to bringing to the programmatic platforms? Would they be also their prime assets, or they would list those assets where they can optimize?
It will be a combination. As I said, there will still be brands that want to own a piece of prime inventory 100% of the time, and they should fully have the opportunity to do that, and there is great value in it. But we're seeing a combination. Yes, they do roadblock out. If you look at Los Angeles here in America, along Sunset Boulevard, the movie studios still want 100% share of voice, and so they should, and they want it for a multitude of reasons. But there's enough inventory in that neighborhood of quality that we can access short term, and obviously then have the ability to take it down when COVID happens and none of the movies are actually going to theater. So it offers flexibility on both sides of it. So I think now the vast majority of inventory is available to us through the platform. Yes, there are a couple of anomalies, and I think, and I'm sure we'll move on to this, that will be solved if solution is the right term, but we'll move further into the more premium things. when we get onto programmatic guaranteed. So people will still be able to buy that through our platform, and it's something that's happening now.
Right. Of course, guaranteed buying would be something that will, I think, bring more of them on the programmatic platform. But how is the OpenRTB delivering?
I mean, that's what's happening now. We like to be completely transparent and honest when we talk about real time. And at this moment, and I'm not sure it will or needs to be, it's not instantaneous creative delivery driven by live data. And I'm not sure it needs to be. And I'm not sure it is all that often in any other media either. But it's where we are at the moment. You know, most things are on some kind of real-time bidding, private marketplace. But I think programmatic guaranteed it will become more and more the norm. And it may even go more simple than that. It may well be that there are programmatic guaranteed networks. So we're looking into things so that we're not reinventing the wheel every time. Why isn't there a youth pack, an entertainment pack, a technology pack, a captains of industry pack? So that, you know, the real-time guarantee is a network. And then we add value to that programmatically by continuing to do the real-time bidding side by side with it.
Right.
On top of that, so, you know, I interrupted them. There are also probably 3 routes that this could take that we haven't even thought of yet. So it's, you know, who knows where this will go. It's, we have plans. We have a very accurate, both commercial and tech roadmap, but surprises and evolutions in technologies change every day. I'm surprised on a daily basis by what's possible.
Well, I'm tempted to ask this, that, you know, has the pandemic helped companies to move closer to this idea of programmatic DOH?
Beyond doubt. I mean, as I say, I was in a more traditional agency at the start of the pandemic and spent the first couple of months of the pandemic trying to negotiate out of long-term multi-month contracts for huge global brands that were just saying, I don't want to be on the street. So I think, you know, people now having had the ability over the pandemic to go live on a heartbeat and then to come down on a heartbeat if needs be, has changed people's thinking. So, you know, if I could do a Thanos click and COVID never happened, I'd do it. But I have to say that for our industry now, both in terms of the education it gave to brands and to agencies in how the media can really be used, probably pushed us forward 3 years. But then also on top of that, as I say, with humanity having had going out of home put on prohibition, so to speak, and then when if prohibition, if you know anything about prohibition from alcohol days in 1933, when you lift a prohibition, people tend to get wasted on the product that was prohibited, and in this case, it was going out of home. So I think the education it gave people in terms of what is possible, and then the reality of the joy of being out of home being reinforced in such a phenomenally strong way on a global scale have really been beneficial for the forward march of programmatic out of home.
Wonderful to hear that, Mike. I'd like to have a comment from you when it comes to the agency perspective on programmatic DOH. You know, how is it complementing their business?
I mean, it allows them to speak one universal language across all mediums. It allows them to attribute on a more accurate way. I mean, I think one of the education pieces we have is to digital departments in particular, that as exciting as what we can do is, and as much as it speaks the language that you speak across other platforms, when you're buying Google, Facebook, whatever, it is different. It's not a physical website. And all impressions aren't equal. The geography and the physicality and the way that out of home weaves its way into society in the real world is really, really valuable. So, you know, what excited me about Adomni when I first saw it as a potential client before I joined full time was the fact that it's incredibly user-friendly and easy to use. Anybody that's trading any form of programmatic medium online looks at it, it's familiar, it speaks their language, and it's easy to use. But then it's incredibly transparent, again, about the physicality and geography and the locations that it dominates. So it's great that everybody holistically is getting excited about the medium and dollars are flowing towards us. But it's equally important that we continue to educate into the unique differences that make it special.
Right. Mike, one thing that is very clear when it comes to programmatic DOH is that there is extensive application of data and technology. And actually, there is greater visibility for the advertiser on the ROI and what it can do for it. So is that really helping the agency businesses to actually increase their own revenues?
Yes, across the world. I think, I mean, for me, my focus is inevitably trying to grow the out-of-home dollars, the digital out-of-home dollars. And yes, sometimes that will come from online, but so it should. 86 cents of every dollar going Facebook and Google can't be the right answer for every brand. So, our ability to measure the attribution studies, which we do at no additional charge, based on what the client really, really wants to learn. It all comes down to accountability and confidence in the medium. And inevitably outside brand KPIs and whatever the end goal be, if it's get on a plane, drink a soda, wear a t-shirt, use a phone, we still have to build the confidence in the medium. And where we benefit in many ways is that we're coming on the heels, if you like, of online, which realistically is still a relatively new medium in the scheme of things.
Yes.
But we learn from their mistakes. At this moment in time, there is no ad blocker software to not see an out-of-home ad. We are never below the fold. And at this moment in time, as far as I know, there are no bots walking around claiming to be impressions. But at the risk of looking too far ahead, we learn from these mistakes and make sure they don't come along. At some point, Amazon will be delivering with drones, and I'm sure they'll have a chip in there that could fly past a billboard and register as an impression. So being mindful of the mistakes or the unforeseen situations that online sometimes found, we can avoid them. And again, it's physical. It runs. It's there. It's in your world.
Absolutely. Is this development actually helping brands and planners to look at digital media and digital OOH, from a single prism?
Yeah, I think so. It's not there yet. It is possible. It might be a little bit manual at the moment, but certainly I envisage a time when you will just puristically plan your campaign in one place. Now, I'm sure lots of people would claim that already happens, but people still have separate departments, and they should, because human expertise is equally as important as data and technological developments. But the synergy of being able to optimize a buy across all mediums is inevitable. And in reality, it has to be possible today because it's just math. Someone just has to figure out the right math and the algorithm to make it happen. So it will be here before we know it.
How appreciative are brand marketers when it comes to the new developments and the new opportunities that programmatic DOH is offering to them? And do you think that programmatic DOH is really the pathway for the industry to get to a double-digit share of the ad buy?
Yes, I mean, the growth, you just have to look at the last 5 years, just to pick a time period. The growth is absolutely phenomenal. And I'm certainly experiencing now that, digital marketeers, brand marketeers are incredibly excited about the space. Partly driven by, again, to repeat myself, partly driven by their own experiences of the last 18 months and the undeniable knowledge they have about themselves that they want to get back to a sporting event or on a plane, or a library, a bar, wherever it will be. The desire to be out of home has been reflected, and now for brands to have the ability to welcome people back out of home in a different, more relevant, timely way, so people are seeing as they want to see and that are relevant to them. So yeah, there's a mass of excitement of what is capable, but then there's also the fun element of the medium. Again, the ability to change creative on a dime with dynamic creative, have fun with it, interact with it, and decorate the world. By default, out of home makes the environment more attractive. It's not an intrusive medium, it's a welcomed medium. and it gives back to society. Part of our rhetoric a lot now is typically, if you spend $1 in an out-of-home environment, up to 80 cents of that dollar is going back to the airport or the municipality or the shopping mall, as opposed to which billionaire do we send to space next. So I think as people look at things beyond just the end goal of selling a product or a service, which is inevitably where we're going, or informing, the ability to do more than that. And everybody talks with the same excitement now about the same things, about the 5G city of the future and where technology will go. And just like those other environments I mentioned, airports, shopping malls, municipalities, transport systems, cities are being built from the ground up with out-of-home advertising included at architectural brief, because ultimately it's the best possible way to reach an audience. It gives back by raising money, by putting brands in front of those audiences. But it's what will, the GPS system that guides Amazon's drones, it will inform law enforcement, and eventually it will give clean energy back to the city, because I envisage a time where every out-of-home unit is solar powered and generates energy, or has a funnel on top that collects rainwater, whatever it will be. So I think, you know, once you start a conversation with someone about media, and then you move into out-of-home media, and then you actually move into what you can do for society as a brand, what you can do even more. And it sounds, you know, a little impassioned and deep, possibly, but brands are thinking more and more like that. What more do you do? And we're a medium that allows you to do so much more for your community. And I think communities and individuals want to engage with brands that do more now.
That sounds very exciting. I think there's a very, very promising future as well, Mike. Just another observation that we had at Media for Growth over the last couple of years is that there have been several new companies that have been coming up on this particular landscape, be it DSPs, SSPs, Exchange, any of the other constituents of the programmatic DOH space. Do you see this multiplicity of service providers and platforms being there for the long term, or is there going to be any kind of a consolidation of business?
Yeah, I mean, lots of things there. The inevitable consolidation. You know, we speak to people all the time, and there are different facets in different businesses that should come together. Inevitably, a lot of the companies will go away. You know, something new and exciting comes up and everybody jumps on there. And, you know, I think a lot of people come into it without a media background, with a tech background, and just look purely at the capability of it. And that alone is just a solution to a problem. But it's only a problem if people think they have the problem. So, you know, as I say, you know, I had 10 years of, at one point, I could fill every hour of my day with somebody showing me their variant of a platform. So using America as an example, you know, I think there are 4 of us, maybe even 3 realistically now that I see. And firstly, I think the market is big enough for that. Will any of us get together? Possibly. But I don't really think now, and, you know, now and again, investors will call for advice and say, I'm looking at a company that's thinking of doing this. And I think you're too late now. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't really see any new player turning up in the market now. There are a handful of companies that I really respect and I think are doing great, and there are a couple that I worry for that may not be around in a few months. But the tale I've just told is true of every medium that's evolved. I mean, I think Facebook was the 12th social media platform. So, you know, yeah, people will keep trying, but it'll consolidate, it will get simpler, it'll get easier and clearer.
Well, I think this is an area where I would have so many more questions, but I'm sure we will have many more conversations, Mike. But before we conclude, I'd just like to have your perspective on the India market, where programmatic DOH is at a very nascent stage. You know, the companies operating in the space are just about coming to terms with this whole idea. It is not taken off, but there's huge potential. What is your observation of programmatic DOH potential in a market like India?
I think it's vast. I mean, ironically, it seems strange to say that from an out-of-home standpoint, India and America have a lot in common in terms of huge landmass, but pretty concentrated typically in key cities. So you have, as we do in America, you have these, and especially the quantity of media owners that you have in India. So you have these thousands of old vinyl or even paper and paste billboards stretched across the urban environment that will take longer to change. So inevitably, you know, you look at Mumbai, that will happen quick because it's where the population is. So it's where the media owners invest. I mean, it's already a very digital city. It's an incredible landscape. But as the hardware or the media gets cheaper, it's a matter of time before this is vinyl, but it has a little chip in it and you can move programmatically and it costs 2 cents per square meter. It's inevitable. So it will speed up as people see the success of it and how much additional revenue it generates. And as the cost of rolling it out becomes cheaper. So I do think if you're driving through central India, or if you're driving through Utah in America and there's one billboard on the corner of a farmer's field, it will be a digital billboard and it will play relevant ads driven by data as who's passing the billboard. So it takes a while, but you know, India, I mean, certainly I've always thought India, when I say advanced in terms of out of home, I'm talking about talent. I think the people out there are, you know, there's always a desire for this. There's some great people working in India that will drive it forward. You will be as programmatic as we are in 2 years.
Oh, that really is a very, very positive statement. And I'm really hoping that that'll come about. I think it'll do a world of good for the OH business in India. I'm sure the Indian OH business will also go global that way. And hopefully Adomni will also have a big footprint in the Indian market in the years to come.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, I really am. I'm hoping that next time we do this, we can do it face to face. You know, as the world opens open again, as a consumer, irrelevant of what I do for a living, I can't wait to get back on a plane and come and see you and get to Singapore and Hong Kong and whatnot. I've as a consumer, my out of home has been affected and I miss it.
Wonderful, Mike. I think let me then wish you the very best for a wonderful year ahead for Adomni and for yourself. And we will look forward to many more conversations with you. Thank you so much for your brilliant observations on the subject of programmatic DOH. And we look forward to many more of your thoughts coming to us in the coming times. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Rajiv. It was a pleasure. Thank you.